We open with Lisa, the manager of a restaurant called Double Whammies, crying in her car. She wipes the tears and goes in to start her shift, kicking off Andrew Bujalski's 2018 dramedy Support the Girls. Now, the trailer and poster will have many, and including myself, believing that this is supposed to be a funny movie. Although there are moments of daily humor and stupidity throughout, don't be fooled. This is one of the most realistic and quietly depressing movies I've ever seen. Now, a little bit about me, since I, and I'm sure a lot of people like me, can really relate to certain parts of this movie. Since I was 15, I've been working in the restaurant business. I started out at 20 hours a week or so, but by the time I was in high school, I started working full-time while maintaining my studies. I've also worked construction and retail jobs, and by the time I was a senior, I was working 2 jobs for around 50 to 60 hours a week. And unsurprisingly, I'm not alone in this. The majority of my friends were working just as hard, if not harder, in equally demanding jobs. Out of every job I've worked though, I have to admit my favorite jobs have always been restaurant ones. And through those jobs, I've been exposed and talked with all kinds of people. There is a real sense of camaraderie there, at least in the US, where most of my work experience has been. And this movie reflects a lot of the people and situations I've met and been involved with. I knew it immediately with this movie's opening, because if you've worked in the food industry, you have probably done it or seen someone cry in their car before a shift. Now, with jobs like this, no 2 days are the same. It's always hectic, and you are literally running, putting out fires wherever they pop up. And so is it with Lisa as well. From watching over a coworker's son, to calling the police over an attempted robbery, leaving work to deal with family issues, defending a waitress from harassment, and organizing a fundraiser, these are all unexpected events that can and do happen in these environments. And while the movie does a fantastic job portraying the work environment, the movie does a great job of portraying marginalized and exploited groups unifying and supporting each other. And it's done with 2 groups here, women and the working class. And although they overlap most of the time, the director made sure to make a point out of this environment and its effects on specifically women, so I'll be doing the same. So if you haven't figured it out yet, Double Whammies is a parody of the restaurant Hooters, but it makes a larger point about establishments that specifically require its female staff, mostly waitresses, to wear revealing outfits. And for the most part, the women working learn from the senior employees how to use the cards they're dealt for more tips. Lisa makes a point that this is a mainstream, family-friendly restaurant, and it kind of is, but the problem is the owner. Now, the owner requires his staff to wear those uniforms. He relies completely on Lisa to run the bar because of his own laziness and incompetence, but nothing she says to him makes him change his mind. The owner knows that by forcing his waitresses to dress up in those outfits, he'll drive in more business. But at the same time, he essentially opens them up to harassment while he takes none of the insults. And it's just a fact that most women working in restaurants and retail have faced some kind of harassment just for the fact that they're women. One of my best friends worked with me at a couple of my jobs, and she worked just as hard and just as long as I did. The difference was, though, when we got to telling our work stories, hers were different from mine, and it was very obvious why. And obviously, I'm not saying that clothing or gender is an invitation to harassment, but if sexualizing your staff is literally built into how your restaurant functions and makes money, you are knowingly drawing in a crowd known for this kind of behavior and doing the bare minimum to protect your staff. Now, some people might be taken aback by the fact that I said the owner forces his waitresses to wear that clothing. How can it be forced if they knowingly sign up for it, right? Danielle is one of the waitresses working alongside Lisa at Double Whammies. In a quiet moment, Lisa asks her, "Do you like working here?" Danielle responds, "I like working with you." Then a couple hours later, Danielle is asked again, "Do you like working here?" But this time by the owner. But now, she just responds yeah before walking away. A yes can only really mean yes if no is a valid option. The women working here signed up for it, that's true, but if you're in debt, have a child to take care of, bills to pay, and no safety net, do you really even have an option? And with that, we get to the most depressing part. After all the work, all the put out fires, the customers, everything goes back to being exactly the same. Life doesn't get better for people stuck in jobs that demand everything while returning the bare minimum. You work your ass off because if you stop, you lose everything. Our 3 main characters each resist to varying degrees against the owner and the restaurant, and they all get fired immediately. The next day, the three find themselves at an interview for Man Cave, another restaurant with the same policies, where the recruiter pretty much tells them that their employees are unintelligent and can be easily replaced. It's a really depressing cycle of abuse, one where people with no money sign up and work for jobs that demean, exploit, and insult them, because if you're living, then you're sure as shit gonna be working. I found this really great essay I'll have linked down below by Josh Caprita that sums up this movie perfectly, so I'll just read it. The next day, when Lisa, Macy, and Danielle find themselves broke and jobless, standing on a precipice overlooking a sea of highways and overpasses, the whole world seemingly in front of them, they are left with one option: to assert their individuality, frustration, and self-worth by letting out a flurry of primal shrieks. However cathartic this release of pent-up emotion might finally be, Bujalski is wise to leave us with one final cursed detail. These cries have gone unnoticed, imperceptible with the din of rush hour traffic. I know this is a depressing video for a comedy, but I really wanted to talk about this film and a lot of the themes in it. Movies like this, about real people with real issues, need to be more common, especially ones that portray people coming together. Regina Hall gives such a beautiful and complex performance in the movie as Lisa, and it's a really nice representation of those genuinely nice managers that care about their employees. If you get lucky, you get a Lisa, but if you're unlucky and your manager turns out to be a prick, then your job can go from shitty to the literal depths of the inferno, so respect to those managers who take their job seriously. Movies inspire, and I hope movies like this with themes like the strength of solidarity can inspire some people to support others struggling with different issues caused by the same problem. And although it may not get any better, with solidarity and a unified front, it can make the day-to-day go by easier.